Choi Dae-hyun leads an ordinary life, working in a convenience store that he inherited from his parents. Every day is monotonous and predictable, and although he is happy with his work, he sometimes feels exhausted. One evening on his way home, he comes across a group of teenagers, including the energetic and fearless Jung Saet-byul. The girl immediately attracts his attention with her assertive character and colorful appearance. She asks him to buy cigarettes, but Dae-hyun refuses, urging her to stop her bad habits. In gratitude for his concern, Saet-byul takes his business card and promises to come back if she ever needs help. 3 years pass, and Dae-hyun's life remains just as quiet. He still works at the store, where the days stretch on and on without much change. His only entertainment is seeing his girlfriend Yeonju, whom they've been dating for a few months now. Yeonju is successful and confident, working at a prestigious company, and although Dae-hyun values their relationship, he sometimes feels that he struggles to match her ambitions and lifestyle. His days are spent doubting his own prospects and thinking about what he's accomplished in life. One evening when Dae-hyun is working at the store, a girl with a determined look and a familiar face suddenly walks in. She introduces herself as Jung Saet-byul and reminds him of that very encounter 3 years ago. Smiling, she informs him that she needs a job now and offers her services as a store employee. Dae-hyun is taken aback by her offer. Her confidence and persistence confuse him, but he sees more than just courage in her. He's not sure whether to accept her, but Saet-byul doesn't give him time to doubt and persistently convinces him that she'll be a great employee. Despite his doubts and some anxiety, Dae-hyun agrees. He explains Saet-byul's basic duties, showing her how the store is organized. From the first day, she shows herself to be an extraordinary employee. She learns quickly, finds a way to approach customers, and always keeps a positive attitude, which immediately catches Dae-hyun's eye. Her directness and openness refreshes the atmosphere of the store, and Dae-hyun begins to think that maybe he's not wrong in his decision. Meanwhile, Yeonju learns about the new employee and starts asking Dae-hyun questions. While she doesn't show outright jealousy, she's concerned that Saet-byul is a young, beautiful girl who now spends a lot of time around her boyfriend. Dae-hyun reassures her, saying that there's nothing but a working relationship between them, and that Saet-byul is just an efficient employee. Yeonju remains wary, however, and her doubts begin to slowly build. Working with Saet-byul gradually brings a newness to Dae-hyun's life that has been sorely lacking. From the very beginning, she demonstrates her ability to solve unexpected problems and attract customers, which surprises Dae-hyun in particular. The store, which used to be just a place to shop, now comes to life thanks to her bold and sometimes completely unconventional methods. For example, she starts offering customers discounts on items that were less popular and actively invites everyone to stop by again. Gradually, her confidence and energy turn the store into a favorite spot for locals. One day, Dae-hyun encounters a problem. One of the regular customers, demanding and not always friendly, starts behaving rudely and demands discounts on every item. Dae-hyun isn't sure how to handle this customer, but Saet-byul quickly takes control of the situation. She deftly handles the customer by finding the right words and making him leave without causing further problems. Dae-hyun is impressed by her resourcefulness and communication skills and begins to see her as a really valuable shot. Meanwhile, Yeonju, Dae-hyun's girlfriend, begins to notice a change in him. She senses that he's becoming more and more immersed in his work and mentions Saet-byul with admiration. Though Yeonju tries to remain calm, her inner anxieties begin to rise. She realizes that her own lofty ambitions, work, and career goals have often alienated her from Dae-hyun, and now that there's another woman who can support him every day, her jealousy grows. She pretends to trust Dae-hyun, but deep down she worries that Saet-byul may be more than just an employee. Amid these changes, Dae-hyun continues to rely on Saet-byul more and more. One day she organizes a small promotion. She comes up with an unconventional advertising strategy to attract young people from the surrounding neighborhoods to the store. She paints brightly colored signs and distributes flyers on the street, inviting people to stop by and receive small gifts for their purchases. This solution, though it seems risky, does attract a lot of new customers, which surprises and pleases Dae-hyun. He realizes that Saet-byul has a unique ability to make work interesting and bright, giving meaning to each day. Over time, Dae-hyun begins to feel that Saet-byul not only helps him improve his business, but also brings something more to his life. She reminds him of the simple joys and vigor he once lost. Although he tries to convince himself that it's only a working relationship, he can't deny that he feels warmth and sympathy for her vibrant personality. In her presence, he finds himself thinking more and more often that he likes her spontaneity and confidence, qualities he sometimes lacks himself. Saet-byul is also not indifferent. She is openly interested in Dae-hyun, supports him in difficult situations, and is always ready to lend a shoulder if needed. Her attitude towards him isn't just friendly, she respects him despite his insecurities and doubts. To her, Dae-hyun becomes someone who, despite his softness and modesty, has a heartiness that she values so much. Her respect and affection gradually deepens, and she realizes that she would like to be around him, not only as a co-worker but also as a friend. Dae-hyun continues to watch Saet-byul bring energy and innovation to the store, and increasingly begins to realize that she's not just a random employee. She stands out for her approach to customers and her resourcefulness. For example, one day Saet-byul meets a couple of regular customers in the store who always come in on Fridays and buy the same items. Noticing their habits, she decides to do something special for them and gives them small souvenirs, showing them that their constancy hasn't gone unnoticed. Dae-hyun is surprised by her attentiveness and approach to each customer, realizing that her presence makes the store a place people want to return to. Meanwhile, Dae-hyun's relationship with Yeon-ju begins to feel increasingly strained. She invites him over for dinner to discuss the future and how their relationship might develop. Yeon-ju tries to be patient and hide her concerns about Saet-byul, but her questions get more and more personal, and Dae-hyun feels like it's devolving into an interrogation. She hints that they should start building a future together, and even hints at the possibility of moving in together. But Dae-hyun feels like he's not ready for that kind of change. He doesn't want to disappoint Yeon-ju, but his confusion only reinforces her suspicions. Shortly after this conversation, Dae-hyun and Saet-byul stay at the store late into the night, as they need to update some items. At one point, Saet-byul notices that Dae-hyun looks depressed and decides to cheer him up by suggesting a break. They go outside and, sitting side by side on a bench, start talking about life. Saet-byul talks about her dreams, how she once wanted to be an athlete, and how her plans changed after difficult life situations. Dae-hyun begins to realize that her cheerfulness hides her difficult experiences, and this makes him respect her even more. During this conversation, Saet-byul pays an unexpected compliment, saying that she sees Dae-hyun as a strong and kind person who can handle any hardship. This catches him off guard, but her sincerity and support suddenly makes him feel warm. He realizes that Saet-byul sees him as more than just a boss or colleague, and that her words support him when he feels confused. This conversation is a turning point for Dae-hyun, and he begins to see her as an important person in his life, even if he doesn't realize it yet. When Yeon-ju learns that Dae-hyun spent the evening with Saet-byul at the store, her patience runs out. She decides to visit the store and check on things. Once there, she sees Saet-byul and Dae-hyun together, working side by side, and her jealousy reaches its limit. She approaches Saet-byul and starts asking questions, friendly at first, but soon turning harsh and suspicious. Yeon-ju is clearly not happy with how close Dae-hyun and Saet-byul are interacting at work, and her irritation becomes obvious to everyone. Saet-byul notices this and tries to remain calm, but sensing the tension, she decides to pull away for a while so as not to cause even more problems in their relationship. She realizes that there are unresolved issues between Dae-hyun and Yeon-ju and doesn't want to be the cause of their conflict. Over the next few days, Saet-byul tries to keep her distance, working with even more responsibility but avoiding informal communication with Dae-hyun. He notices her change but hesitates to ask, thinking it might raise even more questions from Yeon-ju. Despite Saet-byul's best efforts to stay away, Dae-hyun feels that he misses her presence and her support. He realizes that her optimism and willingness to help has become an important part of his daily routine. He eventually decides to talk to her, realizing that he doesn't want the tension between him and Yeon-ju to interfere with their friendship. He tries to explain to Saet-byul that her friendship is important to him, and that he doesn't want her to feel superfluous or unwanted. This honesty and candor helps Saet-byul feel more confident, and she returns to her previous behavior, filling the store with her energy. After trying to stay away, Saet-byul gets back in touch with Dae-hyun and their relationship starts to come alive again, filling the store with a warm atmosphere. Every day she brings something new to the shop. She organizes small events, invites locals, and is always willing to help. Gradually, their store becomes a popular place not only for shopping but also for short meetings with her. And Dae-hyun notices that it's no longer just a job, it's become something more for both of them. One day, Saet-byul suggests holding a sale with small gifts for each customer. She enlists her friends to help with the organization, and the store becomes a bustling hub of the neighborhood. People come not only to shop but also to see Saet-byul and admire her energy and smile. Dae-hyun sees how Saet-byul handles her role as an organizer and is once again impressed by her skills and ability to connect with people. When Yeon-ju finds out about the sale and sees how involved her boyfriend is, she feels increasingly uneasy. Realizing that her suspicions are justified, Yeon-ju decides to visit the store during the promotion. She hopes to see Dae-hyun in his usual work environment, but sees that Saet-byul is fully engaged. Customers are chatting with her, complimenting her enthusiasm, and Dae-hyun is looking at her with genuine sympathy and pride. This sight hurts Yeon-ju's feelings, and her jealousy is taken to a new level. Not wanting to make a scene in public, Yeon-ju pretends that she came just to support Dae-hyun. However, during a break, she takes him aside and expresses her displeasure at Saet-byul's involvement in his life and prominence in the store. She bluntly says that she's bothered by the closeness that's slowly forming between them, and that she feels uncomfortable. Dae-hyun tries to explain that there's nothing between him and Saet-byul, and that she's just a good employee, but Yeon-ju remains adamant, demanding that he put their relationship with Saet-byul in clear terms. After this conversation, Dae-hyun finds himself in a difficult situation. He doesn't want to disappoint Yeon-ju, realizing that her feelings for him are genuine. But at the same time, he doesn't want to lose Saet-byul as an employee, since she brings so much energy to the store and his life. He spends the night thinking about it, realizing that his own feelings for Saet-byul are slowly moving beyond a normal friendship, and now he has a difficult decision to make about how to proceed. Meanwhile, Saet-byul begins to notice that Dae-hyun has become thoughtful and less talkative. She realizes that she may have caused the strain in his relationship, but doesn't know how to help. Determined to show her attention, she suggests spending an evening together outside of work to take his mind off his daily routine. They go to a small cafe where they discuss life, work and future plans over a cup of coffee. Saet-byul tells Dae-hyun about how she once dreamed of becoming a singer and how life turned out differently. Dae-hyun is inspired by her courage and strength, seeing her as a person who always strives to do better despite hardships. After this meeting, Dae-hyun realizes that his bond with Saet-byul goes deeper than he expected. She's not just a coworker or friend to him, she's someone he can be sincere with and who supports him unconditionally. He realizes that Yeon-ju has never accepted his weaknesses or tried to understand him for who he is. Comparing his relationship with Yeon-ju and his friendship with Saet-byul, Dae-hyun begins to question whether he really wants to move on with Yeon-ju. The tension between Dae-hyun and Yeon-ju continues to build, and he begins to realize that his work with Saet-byul has a much bigger impact on him than he's willing to admit. At the store, every day becomes unique thanks to her restless energy and resourcefulness, and Dae-hyun notices that he looks forward to every shift with her. Meanwhile, Yeon-ju tries to keep control of the situation, but her resentment and jealousy become more and more obvious, and she finds it harder and harder to hide her feelings. She comes to the conclusion that she can't Saet-byul's presence in Dae-hyun's life. One evening, Dae-hyun and Saet-byul find themselves alone in a store after a long day of work. They audit the merchandise and discuss their plans, laughing and sharing stories about strange customers. At one point, Saet-byul decides to tell Dae-hyun about her past and how she had to take care of her younger sister after their parents left their lives. Her sincerity and vulnerability amaze him, and he realizes that her lightness and cheerfulness is not just a character trait, but the result of difficult experiences that have hardened her. In that moment, Dae-hyun feels even more respect and sympathy for her. These revelations bring them even closer together. Dae-hyun realizes that Saet-byul doesn't just make his days brighter, she becomes his friend and support. Though he can't fully admit his feelings to himself, he feels that their connection goes beyond mere acquaintance or work. He appreciates her honesty, strength, and sense of humor, and realizes that Saet-byul is someone he can easily be himself without fear of judgment or disappointment. Meanwhile, Yeon-ju decides to meet Saet-byul face-to-face to try to clear the air. She arrives at the store the moment Saet-byul is alone, and bluntly asks her why she's so tight with Dae-hyun. Saet-byul, not expecting such a conversation, is confused at first, but then decides to answer honestly. She explains that she respects Dae-hyun as a person and appreciates their friendship, but they don't have anything more serious. However, her calm and confident answer only reinforces Yeon-ju's doubts. After Yeon-ju's ultimatum, Dae-hyun is in a state of reflection. He's having a hard time making a decision because he doesn't want to lose either Yeon-ju or Saet-byul. However, every meeting with Yeon-ju now comes with tension and awkwardness. She insists that he limit his interactions with Saet-byul to the workplace, but Dae-hyun realizes that it's almost impossible. Saet-byul has already become an integral part of his life and work. He begins to think about what he really wants for himself and how he sees his future. One night, after a long shift, Dae-hyun offers Saet-byul a coffee to take his mind off his heavy thoughts. They go to a coffee shop where Saet-byul tells him about her childhood dreams. She shares that she once wanted to open her own cafe and make it a place where people could feel cozy and safe. Dae-hyun sees how her casualness hides a deep desire to create something of her own and achieve independence. This conversation touches him, and he realizes that he is not alone in his search for himself and his own goals. Saet-byul inspires him to be more optimistic about the future and to set goals worth pursuing. Meanwhile, Yeon-jo doesn't give up her attempts to control the situation. She starts talking to Dae-hyun's co-workers and asking them how often he talks to Saet-byul. Her suspicion starts to become obsessive, and she feels like she's losing control of the relationship. This makes her wonder if she herself is destroying what they had between them. But her fear of losing Dae-hyun is outweighed, and she decides to put a tougher choice in front of him. One night when Dae-hyun and Saet-byul are staying late at work again, an unpleasant incident occurs. An aggressive customer walks into the store and starts demanding money, accusing Dae-hyun and Saet-byul of owing him something. Saet-byul, not confused, decides to step in and try to defuse the situation. She calmly talks to the customer and convinces him to leave the store. Dae-hyun is impressed by her courage and confidence, seeing how she can handle even the most difficult situations. After the customer leaves, Dae-hyun thanks Saet-byul for her support and determination. He realizes that her presence in the store has been a source of strength and inspiration for him. She not only helps him with his work, but also supports him in his most difficult moments. This situation makes Dae-hyun think even more about the fact that Saet-byul brings something to his life that he lacks: self-belief and support that he rarely received before. After much hesitation, Dae-hyun decides to meet Yeon-ju and make his feelings clear. He realizes that procrastinating will only make their relationship worse and increase his jealousy. At the meeting, Yeon-ju again demands a definitive answer from him about his relationship with Saet-byul. Dae-hyun tries to explain that Saet-byul isn't just a co-worker to him, but someone with whom he's found support and inspiration. He admits that her cheerfulness and confidence have been a source of strength for him, which makes Yeon-ju feel rejected. Her reaction turns out to be harsher than Dae-hyun expected. She accuses him of allowing Saet-byul to ruin their relationship, and, unable to bear it, says that he's jeopardizing their future. Yeon-ju concludes that if he's not willing to choose her, then their relationship could end right now. This statement becomes a turning point for Dae-hyun. He realizes that his feelings for Yeon-jo have gradually waned, and that his affection for Saet-byul is now deeper and more meaningful. Despite his heavy feelings of guilt, he decides that being honest with himself is more important, and informs Yeon-jo that he can't stop communicating with Saet-byul. This news causes Yeon-ju to leave, and Dae-hyun is left alone, immersed in conflicting emotions. He feels devastated after the breakup, but at the same time, he feels liberated from something that hasn't brought him joy in a long time. He realizes that his connection with Saet-byul doesn't necessarily mean the beginning of a new relationship, but realizes that she has managed to give him a sense of confidence and peace of mind that he hasn't felt in a long time. Meanwhile, Saet-byul, unaware of Dae-hyun's breakup with Yeon-ju, continues to work at the store and support him in everything. She notices that he's becoming more thoughtful and withdrawn, but hesitates to ask questions, assuming he's just tired. One evening when they're closing up store, Dae-hyun suddenly suggests they go for a walk to get away from their daily routine. Saet-byul agrees, and they walk along the streets, discussing their dreams and future plans. During the walk, Dae-hyun suddenly confesses that he recently broke off his relationship with Yeon-ju. Saet-byul is shocked at first, but tries not to show it and supports him, realizing that he's having a hard time. Dae-hyun talks about how it became clear to him that his relationship with Yeon-jo had long since become cold and formal, and that it was only with Saet-byul that he felt alive again. As Saet-byul listens to him, he realizes that he's really found support in her, and that their bond is stronger than she thought it would be. After a candid conversation, Dae-hyun and Saet-byul begin to spend more time together, and their bond grows stronger. Now they not only work side by side, but also support each other in personal matters. Dae-hyun feels that with Saet-byul by his side, he has become more confident and ready for new challenges. They begin to develop new ideas for the store, and every day seems more fulfilling and interesting for him. Saet-byul brings not only joy but also inspiration into his life, awakening ambitions in him that previously seemed unattainable. One day, Saet-byul learns of a business conference for shopkeepers and suggests that Dae-hyun attend it together. She explains that it's a great opportunity to make useful acquaintances and learn about business innovations. Dae-hyun is hesitant at first because he's not used to such events, but Saet-byul convinces him to give it a try. At the conference, they do meet other shopkeepers and learn about new trends. Dae-hyun sees how easily Saet-byul interacts with strangers, and realizes that her social skills could be a huge asset to the growth of their business. Meanwhile, Yeonju, watching Dae-hyun and Saet-byul spend time together, feels their bond growing stronger. She begins to feel bitterness and regret for not supporting him sooner and letting her ambition take over their relationship. This makes her wonder if it's possible to take things back, but she sees how Dae-hyun has changed for the better by being around Saet-byul. One evening, Dae-hyun and Saet-byul linger at the store again, discussing ideas on how to make their place more popular. Saet-byul suggests holding weekly theme days to appeal to young people. For example, a vintage drinks day or a rare snacks day that are hard to find in regular stores. Dae-hyun finds the idea interesting and decides to give it a try. With these innovations, the store really starts to attract more customers, and Dae-hyun sees that his business, which has long been just a source of income, is starting to turn into something unique. A few days later, as they enjoy the success of their first theme days, Dae-hyun notices his feelings for Saet-byul deepening. Her enthusiasm, concern for him, and genuine desire to see him succeed awaken gratitude and warm feelings in him. He tries to hide it for fear of scaring her or ruining the friendship, but he realizes that he can no longer imagine his life without her. The thought scares him, and he tries to keep his distance, so he doesn't give away his feelings too openly. Sae also begins to notice changes in herself. She finds herself looking forward to spending time with Dae-hyun every workday. He has become more than just a boss to her, but a close person who she respects and appreciates. Her friendship with him is stronger and deeper than she expected, and now she wonders if her feelings might be more than just sympathy too. As the store becomes more popular and his friendship with Saet-byul strengthens, Dae-hyun begins to feel that his life is finally making sense. However, his worries about his own feelings for Saet-byul keep him on edge. He realizes that his affection for her is becoming too strong, but he fears that admitting it could ruin their friendship. Dae-hyun decides to keep his feelings to himself, not wanting to jeopardize their relationship. Meanwhile, Yeonju tries to get back into his life. She realizes that her jealousy and ambition have ruined their relationship and begins to wonder if she did the right thing by putting her career before Dae-hyun. She tries to invite him over for dinner, explaining that she wants to talk things over and possibly repair their connection. Dae-hyun agrees to the meeting, deciding that they both need closure. At the meeting, Yeonju apologizes to him, admitting that she did the wrong thing, but Dae-hyun explains that their relationship is in the past and that he's ready to move on. He's grateful for her candor, but realizes that their paths have diverged, and now he no longer sees a future with her. Meanwhile, Saet-byul notices that Dae-hyun is becoming more withdrawn and brooding. She worries that his problems might have been caused by her influence, and begins to blame herself for it. Her doubts lead her to think that she may have caused the difficulties in his life. She begins to avoid him, trying to keep her distance so as not to inconvenience him unnecessarily. But her detachment only makes Dae-hyun more anxious. He feels like he's losing her support, and realizes that their connection means more to him than he imagined. One evening when Saet-byul finishes her shift, Dae-hyun decides to talk to her. He asks her to stay for a few minutes to discuss their work, but soon the conversation turns to more personal topics. Dae-hyun admits that he's bothered by her aloofness, and says that her presence in his life has become an important part of his daily routine. He can no longer hide his feelings, and finally decides to confess to her that she means more to him than just a friend or co-worker. His frankness takes Saet-byul by surprise, but she does not try to walk away. On the contrary, she listens to him with attention and understanding. Saet-byul, after hearing Dae-hyun's confession, feels her own doubts gradually fade away. She realizes that she too has tender feelings for him, and that their friendship has grown into something deeper. She confesses that she has always appreciated him for his sincerity and caring, and that his kindness and gentleness have made him a special person to her. This frank conversation strengthens their bond, and they both feel relieved that they no longer have to hide their feeling. After a frank conversation, Dae-hyun and Saet-byul decide to officially admit their feelings for each other and start building a relationship. Their bond, previously only friendship and mutual understanding, now turns into something more, filled with romance and support. They don't want to make their relationship public and continue to work side by side, maintaining professionalism and ease, so as not to embarrass their clients. Nevertheless, their closeness is noticeable, and many regular customers notice that the atmosphere in the store has become even warmer. Meanwhile, Yeonju, who guesses that Dae-hyun is now with Saet-byul, begins to feel not only disappointed but also hurt. She realizes that she missed out on Dae-hyun, not because of Saet-byul, but because of her selfishness and inability to appreciate him when he was around. Despite her worries, she decides to be honorable and leave them alone, letting them be happy. However, her heart is still in pain, and she decides to go abroad for a while to get away from the memories and focus on her career goals. She writes Dae-hyun a farewell message wishing him happiness and admitting her mistakes, which, albeit belatedly, brings her inner relief. Dae-hyun and Saet-byul's relationship begins to grow on the back of the success of their store, and their collaboration becomes more and more productive. Inspired by successful themed promotions, they come up with an idea to create a cozy space for customers where they can not only buy goods, but also relax, chat, and enjoy the atmosphere. They add cozy corners with seats and shelves with books that customers can read while waiting. This idea immediately attracts customers, and their store begins to differentiate itself from the rest, becoming not just a place to shop, but a true meeting center for locals. One evening, after completing another successful day, Dae-hyun and Saet-byul decide to celebrate their success and go to a restaurant for dinner. They reminisce about what they've been through together, how it all started with her decisive arrival at the store, and how their lives have changed gradually, day by day, thanks to their joint efforts. Dae-hyun confesses that Saet-byul was the one who helped him believe in himself and brought the emotions he had always lacked into his life. He thanks her for her support and for being there for him in his most difficult moments. Soon Dae-hyun decides to take another important step in his relationship with Saet-byul. Realizing that she has become the most important person to him, he decides to surprise her and gives her a small ring to symbolize his serious intentions. Saet-byul is surprised at first, but accepts his gesture with joy and gratitude, realizing that it is not just a gift, but a symbol of their future together. This touching declaration of love makes them both reflect on the fact that their lives are now forever changed. As Dae-hyun and Saet-byul begin to plan their future together, they realize that their dreams are much bigger than they imagined. Saet-byul proposes the idea of opening another store and turning it into a unique place that will combine their ideas of business. Dae-hyun is hesitant at first. After all, it's a big step, but her confidence and courage inspire him to give it a try. Their vision of doing business together becomes their common goal, and now their relationship is not only based on love, but also on shared dreams and goals. Dae-hyun spends more and more time with Saet-byul, especially when Yeon-jo visits him less and less often, and he starts to see her for real. She supports him in everything from dealing with small store issues to personal worries, and her presence becomes more than just professional help. Despite her irascible and combative nature, Saet-byul is sympathetic and inspiring, and Dae-hyun is drawn to her warmth, which helps him overcome his work and life challenges. After a long day of work, Dae-hyun and Saet-byul linger over discussing the store's business, but their conversation soon drifts away. Saet-byul reveals how she has had to cope with difficult circumstances in the past, and her candor unexpectedly touches Dae-hyun. He finds it increasingly difficult to see her as just a co-worker. He sees that behind her boldness lies a truly brave and kind person. As Saet-byul explains how her experiences have made her stronger, Dae-hyun begins to realize that everything she's been through has brought her to this point. It becomes clear to him that her resilience and independence aren't just ostentatious bravado, but traits that have been developed over the years. The next day, one of the store's regular but difficult customers, known for his rudeness, walks in. This time he comes in clearly not in the mood and begins to resent the quality of service. Saet-byul confidently stands next to Dae-hyun, and not allowing the customer to humiliate him, patiently but firmly answers all his complaints. She stands up for her opinion, and her determination makes a deep impression on Dae-hyun. He gets the feeling that he can feel confident around Saet-byul, even in the most difficult situations. Later in the evening, when the two of them are alone and finish cleaning, there is an almost palpable tension between them. Dae-hyun catches himself increasingly attracted, not only to her courage and ability to handle any situation, but also to her genuine involvement in his life. She occasionally casts him a brief glance, and he thinks he can see the genuine concern in her eyes. Saet-byul in turn notices how embarrassed he is, and seeing this, decides to cheer him up by talking encouragingly about her outlook on life and her dreams. She gently suggests that he should not be afraid to show his true feelings and open up to the world. Her words touch him to the core, and he begins to realize that his affection for her goes far beyond a professional relationship. This conversation sharpens his inner contradictions, and he feels that in Saet-byul's presence, he begins to see himself as a different person, more courageous and open. After a while, they go up to the roof of the store to get away from routine business for a while. The night sky beckons them, and Saet-byul quietly shares her memories and hopes. She talks about how she wants to build her life, how she sees her future, and what keeps her going despite the hardships. Dae-hyun listens to her, feeling more and more attached to this girl, who at first he just decided to give a chance to work at his store. Now he realizes that her strength isn't just a facade, but a deeply rooted character trait. As Dae-hyun continues to spend time with Saet-byul, he begins to realize how deeply her presence has penetrated his life. He becomes more and more accustomed to her caring and genuine energy, feeling that she brings joy to his everyday life, which used to be boring and monotonous. However, thoughts of Yeonju still don't let him go. Her jealousy and cold attitude only intensify Dae-hyun's internal struggle, making him wonder if he's doing the right thing. Meanwhile, Yeonju decides to take matters into her own hands and tries to eliminate Saet-byul from Dae-hyun's life. Yeonju starts using her connections to put pressure on Dae-hyun and his business. She sets up trouble for the store to worsen its reputation and prove to Dae-hyun that Saet-byul is only bringing him trouble. When inspectors come to the store with an unexpected inspection, Dae-hyun intuitively senses that it's no accident. At first glance, he tries to cope with the inspection, but it soon becomes clear that there are powerful players involved in the situation whose influence is far greater than he thought. Additional difficulties arise, and everything points to the fact that he can't manage without Saet-byul. Saet-byul, seeing that Dae-hyun is worried about the sudden onslaught of inspections and new problems, decides to support him. Not only does she try to help out at the store, but she also finds ways to learn more about who might be behind these difficulties. In this process, Dae-hyun realizes how dedicated she is not only to her job, but to him as well. Saet-byul isn't afraid to take responsibility for the problems that arise because of her, and her sincerity builds his trust. Yeonju, meanwhile, is growing increasingly irritated that her actions aren't getting the results she wants. She feels that she's losing control of the situation and that her influence over Dae-hyun has waned. She invites him to dinner to discuss his feelings for Saet-byul, but the conversation quickly turns into a tense argument. Yeonju insists that Saet-byul is only a temporary infatuation that will ruin his reputation and career. Dae-hyun tries to object, but her determination and pressure have a strong effect on him, causing him to question their relationship. The next day, after talking to Yeonju, Dae-hyun feels depressed. He returns to the store, frustrated and confused, not knowing how to deal with this conflict. Saet-byul notices his condition and, as always, tries to be supportive. She suggests that Dae-hyun go for some fresh air to distract himself and take a break from the tension. They go to the park, and as they stroll through the alleys, Dae-hyun feels his heavy thoughts begin to recede. Saet-byul talks about how she deals with difficult moments, explaining that sometimes you just need to let go of the situation and let yourself relax. During the walk, Dae-hyun shares his doubts and worries with Saet-byul. He tells her how difficult it's become for him to balance her presence with his relationship with Yeonju, who expects him to make certain decisions. Saet-byul listens attentively without judging or rushing him, which is a real encouragement to him. She realizes that Dae-hyun is facing serious personal issues, and she tries to cheer him up by instilling confidence in his own strength. This conversation reveals another side of Saet-byul to Dae-hyun. She's not just an employee, not just someone who solves the store's problems. She's a person who can understand his doubts and support him without asking for anything in return. He sees that her sincerity and openness are exactly what he needs now, and gradually comes to the conclusion that without her it will be difficult for him to cope not only with the difficulties in the store, but also with his inner worries. Saet-byul becomes his quiet refuge, her advice and involvement helping him cope with his contradictions and strengthening his confidence that real support doesn't have to be loud. Later, back at the store, Dae-hyun and Saet-byul encounter a difficult customer again, and she takes the lead as usual. This time, her confidence and professionalism impress Dae-hyun so much that he finally realizes how much her presence has changed his approach to business. He sees how the store is changing under her influence, how customers are beginning to see it, not just as a place to shop, but as a cozy space where they are always welcome. Saet-byul has breathed life into the store that he could not have created on his own. After the past trials, Dae-hyun realizes that his relationship with Yeonju is putting far more pressure on him than he's willing to tolerate. Her attempts to control his decisions through connections and threats only add to his frustration, and he feels that his feelings for her are becoming more and more uncertain. Meanwhile, Yeonju decides to go even further and frame Saet-byul to get her out of Dae-hyun's life once and for all. Yeonju makes an arrangement with an influential customer who is supposed to cause trouble at the store and thus undermine Saet-byul's reputation. However, Dae-hyun notices that this client is clearly treating Saet-byul unfairly, making far-fetched claims and causing conflicts on the spot. The situation escalates into a real scandal, and at one point the customer directly accuses Saet-byul of inappropriate behavior, insinuating that she is allegedly framing the store. Dae-hyun sees how Saet-byul keeps her emotions in check and doesn't give in to the provocation, but he can't bear to see her being vilified. Unable to stand it, Dae-hyun steps forward and decides to intervene, openly defending Saet-byul in front of the client and everyone present. He firmly states that he values her contribution to the store and expresses confidence in her professionalism. Dae-hyun's words cause a storm of emotion among all the witnesses to the scene, and the customer, who didn't expect such determination from Dae-hyun, gets lost and leaves, unhappy that his plan didn't work. The support Dae-hyun has shown for Saet-byul strengthens their bond and makes those around her look at her with respect. Yeonju learns of the incident and becomes enraged. She realizes that her attempt to make Saet-byul look bad has only encouraged Dae-hyun to show his affection for her even more. In desperation, Yeonju confronts Dae-hyun and tries to give him an ultimatum again, demanding that he choose between her and Saet-byul. But this time, Dae-hyun doesn't give in to her pressure. He feels that he can't leave Saet-byul and frankly tells Yeonju that his feelings have changed. This conversation finally destroys their relationship, and Yeonju walks away, leaving him alone with it. After this meeting, Dae-hyun returns to the store and finds Saet-byul, who, feeling guilty about what happened, offers to leave so that she won't bring him any more trouble. Her words and determination to leave the store shock Dae-hyun. He realizes that her leaving will be a real loss to him, and suddenly, without hesitation, he confesses to her that her presence means much more to him than he expected. This emotional moment brings them closer together, and Saet-byul realizes that her feelings for him are mutual. They decide that they will support each other no matter what, and this moment marks a new chapter in their relationship. Dae-hyun and Saet-byul agree to continue working at the store, reorganizing it and creating a cozy space that will attract customers not only with quality service, but also with a warm atmosphere. This becomes a symbol for them of their growing feelings and shared future. Gradually, Dae-hyun and Saet-byul begin to prepare a new project for the store. They decide to transform it to add details that will make it a unique and cozy place to come back to. Saet-byul shares his ideas, and Dae-hyun feels for the first time that they may have a future together, even though their backgrounds and personalities are different. Saet-byul brings a sincerity and loyalty to his life that he's always lacked, and he realizes that he's really becoming himself around her. When the store reopens after their small transformation, it attracts customers like never before. People come not only to shop, but also for the warm atmosphere that Dae-hyun and Saet-byul create together. Their teamwork not only strengthens their relationship, but also inspires customers. As time goes by, Dae-hyun begins to notice how Saet-byul has changed him and feels that his life is more meaningful around her. Saet-byul, feeling that her affection for Dae-hyun has deepened, decides to leave the store so as not to be the cause of his difficulties and conflicts. She realizes that her presence is causing him problems with Yeonju, and her new responsibilities are beginning to seem too burdensome. Dae-hyun, upon learning of her decision, realizes that her leaving would be a real loss to him, and he can't let that happen. He finds Saet-byul in front of the store late at night and asks her to stay, confessing that he doesn't want to lose her. He says frankly that her presence has changed him and that she's become someone very important to him. Dae-hyun's words touch her to the core, and she decides to stay, even though she senses that their friendship is beginning to take on a very different character. The next day, they decide to focus on transforming the store. Saet-byul shares her creative ideas, and they start working as a real team, rebuilding the structure of the store and coming up with new ways to attract customers. Their work together is so harmonious that Dae-hyun feels his affection for her grow stronger. Together they discuss interior details, plan promotions, and think of ways to make the store more cozy and attractive to visitors. While at work, Saet-byul suggests that Dae-hyun organize a small promotion for regular customers, and have a contest where the winners can get discounts or souvenirs. Dae-hyun, surprised by her creativity, agrees, and the promotion really starts to attract more and more customers. Saet-byul, with her genuine energy and enthusiasm, revitalizes the atmosphere in the store and becomes the main reason people come not only to store but also to socialize. Meanwhile, Yeon-jo, observing what's going on, realizes that Dae-hyun is no longer interested in her, and his affection for Saet-byul has become apparent. She sees their relationship developing and decides to intervene, hoping to make Saet-byul feel guilty and dissuade her from further involvement with Dae-hyun. Yeon-jo comes to the store and demands a private conversation with Saet-byul, in which he openly accuses her of ruining their relationship. Saet-byul remains calm and composed despite the accusations. She realizes that her feelings for Dae-hyun are genuine and sincere, and she doesn't have to make excuses for the fact that her affection was born out of mutual respect and support. She explains to Yeon-jo that she never intended to ruin anyone's relationship, and that her friendship with Dae-hyun was never intended as a way to hurt anyone. Saet-byul's words, full of confidence and honesty, leave Yeon-jo at a loss. After this conversation, Saet-byul decides to have a frank talk with Dae-hyun and explain to him that she doesn't want to become the cause of the conflict. He, however, feeling that her leaving would be too painful for him, convinces her to stay, assuring her that he's ready to take responsibility for his feelings. His words convince Saet-byul that there is indeed a strong bond between them based on trust and mutual understanding. Together, they continue to work on improving the store, and their joint efforts bear fruit. Customers increasingly appreciate the cozy and welcoming atmosphere that Dae-hyun and Saet-byul create. Gradually, their bond becomes obvious to others, and everyone who comes into the store notices that their relationship has gone beyond the normal workplace. Dae-hyun begins to realize that next to Saet-byul, he feels real and can be who he really is. Dae-hyun, having finally realized his feelings for Saet-byul, decides to take a step towards her. He no longer wants to hide his attitude and plans to reveal to her what she means to him. He arrives at the store in the morning, determined to talk to her. But as soon as he sees her smile, his excitement grows even stronger. Saet-byul, as if sensing the change in his mood, listens intently as he begins to talk about how important her presence is. Gathering his courage, Dae-hyun confesses that her support and inspiration has changed his life. Saet-byul, hearing Dae-hyun's candid words, is amazed and touched. She too realizes that her feelings for him are stronger than just friendship or work interaction. An atmosphere of tenderness and trust develops between them, and this recognition brings them closer together, making their bond stronger and more sincere. From that point on, they begin to build a relationship based on support and understanding. Their shared efforts to improve the store become a symbol of new beginnings and the common life they want to create. Dae-hyun and Saet-byul decide to do some renovations to make the store even more cozy. Together they choose furniture, organize new shelves, and create a customer corner where everyone can relax and feel at home. Saet-byul adds elements that reflect her creativity and unique style, while Dae-hyun finds in this project a way to express her own ideas. When their work is finished, the store is transformed beyond recognition. It no longer seems like a simple convenience store. It is now a place that attracts customers' attention, creates a warm atmosphere and a sense of welcome. Gradually, Dae-hyun's establishment becomes popular with the locals, who begin to stop by not only to shop, but also to chat with the owner and his bright female staff. Every customer feels a part of the place, and it makes Dae-hyun and Saet-byul feel like their joint efforts have paid off. Meanwhile, their personal relationship is also growing. They spend not only work hours together, but also evenings outside the store, enjoying simple but sincere moments. Saet-byul helps Dae-hyun get rid of his complexes and fears that once held him back. She inspires him to not be afraid of change and to be confident in his decisions. Dae-hyun, feeling Saet-byul's support, becomes more confident and begins to plan a future in which he sees them both. Yeon-jo, who learns of the store's new success and the changes in Dae-hyun's life, has mixed feelings. On the one hand, she can't completely let go of the past, and on the other hand, she realizes that Dae-hyun has her own life now, in which she has no place. She decides not to interfere anymore. Realizing that her attempts have only hurt him, Yeon-jo accepts her defeat, albeit painfully, and walks out of Dae-hyun's life, leaving him to make his own future. In the evening, after the day's work is done, Dae and Saet-byul stay at the store, enjoying the silence and the feeling of accomplishment. Dae-hyun, looking at the result of their combined efforts, feels ready to take responsibility for their future. He thanks Saet-byul for everything she's done and confesses that he wants her to always stay by his side. Saet-byul, touched by his words, realizes that she has found her place where she is truly needed. Dae-hyun and Saet-byul, having finally completed the transformation of the store, are proud to see customers happily return again and again. The space they created together is now filled with comfort and warmth, and visitors feel at home here. This place has become a reflection of their shared efforts and dreams, as well as a symbol of the new life they have begun to build. Every day working in the store brings them more and more joy. It's no longer just a place to shop. For many visitors, the store has become a place to get away from everyday life, to sit in an organized corner, and to chat with the friendly owner and his energetic assistant. Dae-hyun and Saet-byul enthusiastically interact with customers, creating a special atmosphere that attracts both old and new visitors. Dae-hyun feels increasingly confident and harmonious around Saet-byul. Her energy and support inspire him to look at life in a new way, and their joint achievements help him realize that a future with Saet-byul has become an important part of his life. Saet-byul, in turn, feels that she has finally found a place where she is valued and where she can be herself without pretending or hiding her nature. Their friendship and support has grown into deep and sincere feelings, and both realize that their lives will now follow a common path. When the store closes in the evening, Dae-hyun and Saet-byul stay behind to take stock of their work together. They look at the transformed space, and their eyes are filled with satisfaction and gratitude for each other. Dae-hyun, unable to hide his feelings, says quietly that he feels happy and free around her. Saet-byul, smiling, replies that with him, she's finally at peace and confident about the future. They face the future with optimism and the belief that they can overcome any difficulties if they are together. Now, the store is not just a place of work, but a symbol of their common life filled with trust, warmth, and mutual understanding. Saet-byul and Dae-hyun begin a new chapter, realizing that there are many challenges ahead, but together they are ready for any change.